This will be a longer show, apparently. Tariff taxes debate. So this has been sort of ongoing discussion. Came up with a board a couple of, I think last week, really, some today, because Trump had proposed, what about getting rid of the income tax? What about using tariffs instead? And some of the criticism is, well, those tariffs are really just a disguised tax. Well, there we're talking that the comparison between tariffs and income tax is not tariffs or no tariffs and no taxes, right? That's a no government situation. That's a different debate. We're talking about Trump's idea that what about replacing the income tax system with a tariff system? That would a tariff system be more economically policy viable? So let's look at it from a political perspective than a policy perspective. From a politically perspective, this is widely popular. This is the best way to sell it. If it's made in America, it's tax-free. We're only going to tax foreigners. We're only going to tax foreign countries, foreign businesses, foreign products. Not going to tax Americans. Definitely not going to tax Americans on their labor and their property. Instead, we're going to tax foreigners. Made in America, tax-free. Made in China, you got to pay 60%. Right? So I think politically, winner, 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 winner. Policy-wise, the big question is, so some people they don't agree with tariffs because they believe in free trade. Okay, I would only ask you this. Do you also believe there should be no intellectual property protections globally? There should be no trademark protection globally, no copyright protection globally, no patent protection globally, because that's the test, the acid test, to see whether or not the libertarian position that usually advocates that is being consistent. If you're saying there should be no labor protection for American workers to give them a leg up by taxing foreign products higher than domestic products, then because you think that's not free trade, well, you know what else ain't free trade? Giving people intellectual property monopolies ain't free trade. So ask yourself, if you're a true libertarian anarchist, you have no problem with that. That's a consistent position then. Very few of them will embrace that. What they really are saying is, I want products for me cheaper. And if that means a little 6-year-old in China makes it in a communist country, woo! That's what that usually means. So from a policy perspective, could it raise as much revenue? Well, let's think about economics. In America, the peak of tariffs in America was, guess what else it corresponded with? The peak of economic growth in America. The peak of economic prosperity in America. The peak of shared prosperity for the working class in America. Between 1867 and 1933. Since we have gone with ever since we've gone with lower and lower and lower tariffs, the standard of living in America has gone down and down and down and down and down. So that's another way to think of it. Is that if you look at economic prosperity, tariffs work better than income taxes in terms of generating economic prosperity. Not only incentivizes a domestic industrial base, but it doesn't punish Americans for their own labor. And then you have the national security implications, which I've yet to see a compelling answer on, compelling rebuttal of. Isn't it better if we make it ourselves? Right? Putin had to learn this the hard way and the slow way. But he ultimately did, and look what happened. He could then survive massive economic war because he built up a domestic economic machine. Make their own food, have their own oil, and make their own goods. So some people say, well, look, that tariff may be passed on in prices here. I'm sure it will be. But if you're buying made in America, you don't pay the tax. And again, the question is the choice. Which is fairer? Which is better policy? Which is better for prosperity? Paying an income tax on your labor or paying a tax on a foreign-made good? Which, by the way that normally works, like it did in Russia, becomes all fancy stuff, luxury stuff, not stuff blue-collar people are looking to buy. So that's my take on the tariff taxes debate. So now, let's go to your questions. We'll start with the tippers.